We've got a really big week before us, and I wanted to set out exactly what I think is going to happen with Brexit and the options that exist for the government in the days ahead. On Tuesday, there's the meaningful vote, the moment we've been waiting for, the moment where Parliament will decide whether a withdrawal agreement that the Prime Minister has negotiated with the EU is the right way forward. For reasons I've set out on here before, I don't believe the withdrawal agreement as it's currently set out is acceptable. I think the risks involved with the backstop provisions, which could leave the UK trapped as a rule taker from Brussels without the right to leave without their permission, I think is something which is simply wrong, it's simply unworkable. The risks involved are too great. It's perceived wisdom that the deal is likely to be rejected, and rejected probably decisively. And so at that point, Parliament's given the government 3 days to come up with what comes next, and that will be set out by the Prime Minister on Monday, the 21st of January, that is to say, next week. And that really is the moment of truth, because there will be those arguing, as lots of our local Labour MPs do, that we should have a second referendum, something which I would bitterly oppose. I think it would totally undermine democracy. I think it would shatter the faith of the millions of people who took part in what was ultimately the biggest democratic exercise in our country's history, and many of whom voted for the first time in a long time, or in some cases the first time ever, to express their views on our country's relationship with the EU. I really do think the consequences of that will be wrong. I think those that argued for it would very quickly be surprised were a second referendum to happen by the strength of feeling that Brexit should indeed take place. But I don't want to go down that route. So the alternatives the Prime Minister can face could include pursuing a Norway-style relationship, but I think that would be wrong, and the Prime Minister has previously said it would be wrong because it would allow free movement of people to continue. We could look at a Canada-style relationship, which is a looser relationship, and is something I have a lot of time for. That would basically just be a good free trade agreement with the EU. The obstacle to that is that they keep insisting on this backstop provision in order to get there, and so it seems hard to see how we would get there, although that's something I could support. And then the alternative is what is in legislation, which is that we leave on WTO terms, World Trade Organization terms, what the media would call no deal, but which it would in fact be, I suspect, hundreds of deals covering sectoral agreements to make sure that life carried on in our mutual interest. We've already started to see provisions on citizens' rights, both UK citizens living in European countries abroad and vice versa, also issues like flights. We've heard from the president of the Calais and Boulogne ports this week that in the event of no deal, they wouldn't impose all of these extra checks and delays which we've been threatened with. And so I think that would be a practical way forward. It wouldn't be the desired outcome. I've always believed that a good deal was negotiable, should be negotiable, but we are where we are, and we are, I'm afraid to say, stuck with a parliament that overwhelmingly favoured Remain. For what it's worth, I want to reassure constituents, I will be arguing fiercely to make sure that we do indeed defend what we in Middlesbrough South and East Cleveland voted so overwhelmingly for, which was to leave the EU, and to make sure that we do reclaim control of our borders, laws, money and trade. I think that's deliverable. I think it's going to be a real test of nerve, but at the end of these 2 weeks we'll know a great deal more about what's going to happen, and hopefully have some conclusiveness about where indeed our future lies, because I think that's what the country craves. That's what Parliament now needs to deliver. But I do warn those seeking to overturn the result that those of us who believe passionately in honouring democracy will make certain that that voice is heard.